If you've been struggling with concentration and memory, you've come to the right place. You may have even been wondering just how to improve concentration and memory with brain-boosting foods. I'm here to answer that question. Hi, I'm Dr. Kelly Shockley, Doctor of Cause, Chiropractic, board certified in sports medicine, and specialized in clinical nutrition. In today's video, we're going to be going over the #1 food that is killing your ability to concentrate and remember. Then we're going to be covering the mistakes you're unknowingly making, all in an effort to improve your concentration, memory, and brain power. And then finally, we'll discuss the #1 proven way to eat to boost brain power, concentration, and your memory. Let's dive right on in. All right, the #1 food that is killing your ability to concentrate and remember is, guess what? Sugar. Oh my gosh. Sugar, and sugar of all forms. It is by far the most addictive substance known to man, which is why it's really hard to cut sugar out of your diet. In fact, your brain treats sugar as if it's a drug. It stimulates the pleasure centers in the brain, just like heroin and cocaine and that do. And it is the most addictive substance known to man. It is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. So if you tried to minimize sugar before, but find yourself failing at doing so, there's a reason for it. Now, I'm not saying to just buy into the excuse. I'm saying be kind to yourself and know that this is a process, because you can, and if you have tried to cut sugar out of your diet, you may have not felt so great. The reason being is because your body treats it like a drug. You can actually go through some withdrawal symptom. Now, why on earth am I asking you or suggesting to you that you should put yourself through that whole process? Because sugar is the best way to create inflammation in your body. If you have not heard of inflammation before, think of it as fire starter in your body. And you don't want fire in your body, just like you don't want to touch fire on the outside. Like, it is a bad deal. It is linked with all disease and illness as one of the main underlying contributing causes. So if you are inflamed because you're consuming a lot of sugars, your brain could essentially be on fire. That's a really good image, don't you think? Like, if your brain's on fire, there is no way you're going to be able to focus, concentrate, remember, think clearly. It's not going to happen. Those are the symptoms that you start experiencing when your brain health is being challenged. Just like people who have heart types of problems or cardiovascular issues, they may show signs of that by increase in blood pressure, or maybe their pulse is high, or maybe they have dizzy spells. When you can't remember, you can't focus, you can't concentrate, you've got brain fog. Those are all different types of brain health types of symptoms. That's your body's way of telling you something's not right with the brain. And I'm telling you, this is one of the most common underlying causes of those problems. So if you want to really step up your game and be able to dial it in and focus and concentrate and remember again, if sugar is a huge part of your diet, then you really need to start cutting it back. And not just sugar in the form of desserts and sweet treats. We also need to look at other areas that really contain huge amounts of sugar. A great reference point for you is something known as the glycemic index. That is a measurement of how high does a food that you're consuming spike your blood sugar. The higher the value, the higher glycemic value it is, the better it is at producing inflammation in the body, and the more stressful it's going to be on your brain plus everywhere else. So high glycemic foods are things you want to avoid and start cutting out of your diet, okay? Just for reference, sugar itself comes ranked at about a 68. So again, the higher the number, the worse it is. The closer it gets to 100, the worse it is for you, okay? The grains are worse from a glycemic standpoint compared to sugar. They come in at about 70 to 74, depending on if it's gluten containing or non-gluten containing. Fruits are amazing for us. They have a lot of really good vitamins and minerals, other nutrients. However, they still contain a lot of natural occurring sugars, and our body processes them differently, but too many fruits can still have the same effect. So start familiarizing yourself with high glycemic foods and start minimizing those out of your diet. The other thing, guys, when it comes to this that is helpful is trying to stick with foods you're preparing for yourself. A really, really fun, maybe not so fun, thing for you to do is when you go grocery shopping, if you are getting any foods that actually come in a package or a container, flip it over and look at the nutrient facts, okay? And look to see not only in the ingredients that are listed, but then also in the nutrition facts, under carbohydrates, it will say sugars or added sugars. Start creating some awareness about what foods you're consuming that actually contain sugar. It's kind of frightening. Like you can even find raw, like ground meat products that have sugar in them. I don't know why we need sugar there, but they're putting sugar in everything. So create awareness, start learning about the glycemic index. And if you minimize those higher glycemic index foods, you will start creating a platform for your brain to thrive again. Now I'm curious, did you have any idea that sugar was that addictive? Or have you tried to cut sugar out of your diet before and have not had success? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear from you and what your experience has been. Now we're going to get into the 3 mistakes you are unknowingly making in an effort to improve your brain power. Mistake number 1, cutting out crucial fats. There is so much controversy around fats and what should we be consuming or not consuming. It gets really, really confusing for people. So I understand if you've cut it out. It's partly what we've been taught to do. We've been taught saturated fat is bad for us. That's what clogs our arteries. Fat is the reason why people get fat. And I'm here to tell you that neither of those answers are valid. It could not be further from the truth. Now, there is a difference. There's good fats and there's bad fats. Bad fats, you definitely want to stay away from. And the most common sources you will get exposed to bad fats are any of your packaged foods, things that are already prepared for you. And unfortunately, when we go out and we eat at restaurants and fast food places. Okay. So here's the thing. The reason why fat is so crucial for brain power, memory, concentration is because your brain is predominantly made up of fat. It is the building block of your brain. Depending on what site you source, it's anywhere from 70 to 80% fat. So you have to have fat in your diet because your body can't make it on its own in order to have enough of the building block your brain needs in order to function and thrive. So if you're cutting fats out of your diet, you're robbing your brain of the vital nutrient it needs in order to generate new brain cells or repair existing brain cells. So add in good fats and trust and know that they're not going to clog your arteries. And unless you eat an exorbitant amount of them, they're not going to make you fat either. These good fats that I'm talking about is your coconut oil, your grass-fed butter, ghee, avocado oil. You can also use your extra virgin olive oil as well. It's definitely good for you, but do not cook with it. We've been misled there as well. It doesn't have the ability to maintain at higher temperatures. So save that for your salad dressings or if you're going to just drizzle it over some roasted vegetables. And if you find that you have a hard time getting good fats into your world, I heard this from Dave Asprey, which he's not my favorite human of all people, but he's got some great information. And this line that he had just completely stuck with me. Vegetables, which we need to eat an abundance of, are a great vehicle for getting good fats into your diet. So put some grass-fed butter on your broccoli, put some coconut oil on your asparagus, drizzle, your root vegetables with extra virgin olive oil, and start getting more of these critical good fats back into your diet. Mistake number 2, I call this the cholesterol trap. How many of you guys are afraid of cholesterol? I mean, every patient I talk to thinks that cholesterol is bad for them. Well, here's the thing. Every single cell in your body has cholesterol in it. You would not be alive if you didn't have cholesterol. And unfortunately, the way that the whole medical world is happening and the standard of care and all this stuff, they're continuing to want our cholesterol levels lower than what they were before. I remember back when having a total cholesterol of 300 was considered healthy. Now they want you below 200 at most. It's not the level of cholesterol, okay? The other thing that's come out, and I don't know if you guys caught this, is your body will, it's a manufacturer of cholesterol. And what they said a couple of years ago was that we've realized that dietary cholesterol, so like what you find in the yolks of eggs, has nothing to do with blood levels of cholesterol. So they had us cut out, egg yolks or other high cholesterol containing foods because they thought that that was part of the reason why our cholesterol levels were increasing and that would make us be at risk for a heart attack or a stroke or something cardiovascularly related. Here's what you need to know about cholesterol. First of all, here's what you need to know about cholesterol. And I'll come back to how this relates to brain health in just a second. 50% of people who have heart attacks have normal levels of cholesterol. Cholesterol is still used as the gold standard in the medical population for evaluating your risk for some sort of cardiovascular event, like a heart attack or a stroke. It is the worst way to predict if that's a problem you're going to have or not. How this relates to brain health? Well, the remaining percentage of your brain that's not fat is basically cholesterol. It's almost 20% cholesterol. So this is another critical building block of your brain. The insulation that goes around your nerves, known as the myelin sheath, it's made out of cholesterol. That insulation is what allows the communication to flow as frequently or at the speeds it's supposed to. If you don't have enough insulation, your nervous system is not going to work correctly. Talk to anybody who has dealt with multiple sclerosis. That is part of that condition, is it's demyelinating in its process, meaning you're now starting to lose the insulation that goes around the brain and around the nerves. Okay? You have to have it. And because dietary levels have no influence over blood levels, you should be consuming cholesterol-containing foods like your egg yolks. They're fine. Get farm fresh eggs that were pasture raised, not in the cage, and they were pasture fed, okay? Here's the thing. If you cut out all cholesterol out of your diet, your body's just going to manufacture it. Your liver is the manufacturer of cholesterol. So something is really kind of interesting that none of my patients seem to know that are on cholesterol-lowering medications is how they work. Now, first of all, disclaimer. If you are on a statin or any other type of cholesterol-lowering medication, I did not put you on them. I am not taking you off of them. I'm not suggesting you stop on your own, but you could have a conversation with your MD about how can you ease your way back off of this. If you start putting forth some of these techniques that I'm sharing with you during the video, you'll create a scenario where that could be possible. And don't you think your doctor would be so excited if you got healthier and didn't need to be on medication anymore? So here's the thing. Statins, cholesterol-lowering medications, the way that they work, they don't go in and just clean out your arteries, which I think is what most people have in their head is happening. It's not like it's this roto-rooter that goes in and cleans it out. No. The first thing that they do is they have to make your liver sick because that's who manufactures cholesterol. And then the cholesterol also gets stripped from all kinds of places in the body, whether it's in the arteries where you would like to have that decreased, or it's around your brain or your nervous system, or your hormones, because they're predominantly made out of cholesterol as well. Now, here's the thing. Your liver has about 500 jobs that it does 24/7. I don't know about you, but making your liver sick doesn't sound like a really good approach to me, especially if cholesterol doesn't have a whole lot to do with are you at risk for a heart attack or a stroke. So you need to have cholesterol. The importance is we want our HDLs, the good cholesterol, to be above a 59. That's protective against heart disease and cardiovascular types of events. And then I would prefer your LDLs be lower than 75 and your total be around, what is that? Less than 200. We'll still call it less than 200. But here's the thing. If you have cholesterol that's high, your total is high, your LDL is high, and your triglycerides are fine, and your blood glucose is fine, your hemoglobin A1C is fine, your body is in a protective state. Your cholesterol is a way, like your body will increase it to protect you from something. It's not necessarily dietary related at that point, and no, it's not necessarily about your genetics either at that point. Most commonly, it's your body in a protective mechanism to try to, protect from something. Most common things that I've seen as to why the body will protect itself is a low level of a chronic infection, inflammation, toxicity issues, which nobody tests for in the medical world, or just other different nutrient imbalances and deficiencies. So just focusing on cholesterol and the cholesterol being the star of why everything's wrong with you is also not valid, okay? So don't avoid cholesterol. You need it. It's one of the building blocks as well. Now, the third mistake you're commonly, unknowingly making is consuming a lot of those whole grains and fruits. And I kind of alluded to this a little bit already when I was talking about sugar of all forms, but I just want to drive this point home once again, okay? The reason being is they either are converted to sugar or basically spike your blood sugar high. That would be the whole grains or grains in general, or they contain a lot of naturally occurring sugars, which would be your fruit, which again is going to spike blood sugar high. And that is where we produce all this inflammation from. Okay. So whole grains can be great. They have nutrient value to them, especially compared to the refined version. However, we were not designed to consume them at every single meal throughout the entire day. You will create inflammation, and ultimately that will be very stressful to the body. I don't know if you've read the book, The Grain Brain by Dr. David Perlmutter. It came out eons ago now at this point, but he's a neurologist, world-renowned neurologist that recommends people going on a lower carbohydrate diet. And the people he focuses on the most are people who have dementia and Alzheimer's. He watched his dad whittle away and lose his abilities, which he was an amazing physician as well, because of Alzheimer's. He's down in Florida. He has a high population around him with dementia and Alzheimer's. And he's passionate about trying to give them a different outcome on life. But he also talks about everything neurologically related, like memory and concentration and brain fog. The way we were designed, we do not need to consume huge amounts of carbohydrates. They actually are detrimental. Back before importing and exporting and refrigeration, they were more geared for our survival. Think about it. Fruit, when it comes in season, is generally only in about the fall time, maybe a couple of times depending on where you live, but it's mostly in the fall if you are going to stick with what grows locally and is in season locally. Part of the mechanism behind that is a survival effect. Your body, you seek out those fruits, those carb, rich foods, because what it does is it creates fat storage in your body. And when you were going to go into the winter months when food was more scarce, not as readily available, you'd have your extra layer to help you make it through those months until food was more plentiful again. We have not evolved from our early ancestors, okay? We very much so seek out carbohydrates, and they're very addictive in their root, right? But we don't need them to survive. We have food readily available all of the time. So it can make it a little difficult to start cutting them back, but I'm telling you, you will feel so much better if you do. Now, before I get into the number one proven way to eat for boosting brain power, concentration, and memory, I just want to remind you to click that subscribe button down below, turn on those notifications. I am dropping videos every Monday through Friday that relate to brain health and everything that will help you achieve what I like to call total body mastery. So click that subscribe button, turn the notifications on, and you won't miss another one. Awesome. Okay, the number one proven way to eat for brain power, concentration, memory has everything to do with your macros. Now, what do I mean by that? Macros are your fats, your carbs, and your proteins. Okay, that's just the fancy terminology for it. And the biggest thing here that's important is it's all about the ratios. You just heard me say that we want to keep carbohydrates low. Well, what does that look like? So here's the thing. This is what we found based off of research and based off of just humans as a species. From the early 70s, we've been doing this type of research, maybe even prior to that. What we found for good fats, that's those avocados, the coconut oil, grass-fed butter that I was sharing with you earlier. You want to be consuming those at every meal, and they should make up what would look like about 50 to 70% of what you're consuming, okay? Now, don't worry, you don't have to start measuring everything. Maybe it's helpful to track food initially just so you can kind of get a mental picture of what that looks like, but you really don't have to. And don't freak out about calories. If you start consuming more fats, you might be consuming more calories, maybe not, because you're going to get more satiety out of what you're eating, so your portion sizes can also decrease. So everything balances out, and just know it's not about how many calories are you consuming anymore. It's about what kinds of food are you consuming that makes up those calories, okay? And the ratios are what are much more important. So 50 to 70% of your diet should be those good, healthy fats. Then about 20 to 30% should come from clean proteins. And I emphasize the word clean because you can eat proteins from all kinds of sources that have been adulterated and injected with stuff, fed things that they're not supposed to be fed. And ultimately, that's a sick livestock animal that ultimately will pass on all of those things it was exposed to you, which will then in turn make you sick as well. Okay. If you're going to have beef, this is like the most controversial protein that's out there right now. Please do yourself a favor and only get grass-fed, grass-finished products from cows. Okay. Even if you're consuming milk, which we're not going to get into that today, but beef is okay for you. It's not going to cause cancer. It's not going to make you fat. It's not going to clog up arteries if you're sticking with grass-fed, grass-finished cows. Okay. So clean protein sources. That also means that if you're going to consume fish, that it's wild caught, it's not farmed. Farmed is going to have a lot of detrimental health effects to it. So go with wild caught. Okay. Or pasture raised, you're looking for that too when it comes to your chickens and your eggs, like cage free. Those are all key phrases that you want to familiarize yourself with. And then the carbohydrates. Try to only consume 20% of what you're eating in your day or less of carbohydrates. And if you really remove grains, you can have a ton of vegetables and be still underneath that 20%. Because vegetables don't contain a whole lot of your complex carbohydrates, but they contain the healthy carbohydrates. Lots and lots of vegetables, really minimal on fruit, really minimal on grains if you insist on eating them still, and cut out sugars as much as possible. Now, here's the thing about this diet and your body, okay? You don't have to be 100% perfect all of the time. That's impossible. And we live in a time where that's not even possible because our food supply has been totally altered and we don't have what we need readily available. So if you focus on doing that type of a ratio for all the macros, 80 to 90% of the time, you can have your splurge once a week, okay? Your body can handle the 10 to 20% of you not being impeccable with your food selections. That gives the forgiveness for a birthday party or a wedding or some other celebration that comes up unexpectedly. Or it also just gives the opportunity to go and celebrate something with the family or have one of your special treats that may have just been kicked off the list by me. Your body can tolerate that if you keep it at 10 to 20%. It's when we go beyond that now we start creating health problems. Now, if you're sitting there wondering oh my gosh, Kelly, what in the world am I supposed to be eating? None of this even makes sense. Or these are really foreign concepts. I haven't heard this before. Or maybe you slightly have, but you still don't know what should I eat if I'm cutting out grains or at least reducing them. What does that look like? Don't hesitate or think on that thought any longer. You guys, I have for you down in the description right below this video, if you click on it so it expands, there is a link called the 7-Day Eat Your Way to Better Brain Health Meal Plan, and it's free. Just click the link, you'll have immediate access. And this will give you a guide and an example of what does that actually look like, eating for brain health. This meal plan that I created was designed for busy humans or people that just really don't enjoy cooking food. So you don't have to worry. It's not one of those meal plans where you have to cook every meal every single day, because I don't know who has time for that. I definitely don't. So this was designed with planned overs in it so that you could have amazing, delicious, healthy brain food readily available all the time, but not have to live your life in the kitchen. It has your grocery list and then super easy recipes to follow that won't take up a lot of your time either. So you guys, go down into the description, click that link, get your access, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here today, and we'll see you on the next go.